Good evening, everybody. I hope you guys can hear me. We're gonna get started in a few minutes. Just know that you're here. Shout a hello, where you coming from, rep your church. Let's see it.
Testing 1, 2. Well, ladies and gentlemen, here we are. Happy New Year
Happy New Year.
to everybody. We wanted to come on, Dominick and I, my son and I, to first say Happy New Year and to give God praise for all of the wonderful things that He has done, but most especially for bringing us into a brand new year. Dominick, you excited about 2025?
I am. I really am. 2024 has been for the most part for me personally, it's been a good year.
Oh, let me stop because this is unscripted. So
Yeah,
let me
we
stop.
got nothing.
I almost put on. I have that same shirt. And I almost put that. We would have been twins.
Oh, that would have started the new year right, man.
Look, man, I'm telling you something. For the next 30, 45 minutes,
Yeah.
it's no telling where this is going to go, okay? It might be some serious moments. It might be some sad moments. It might be some difficult moments. We just come out of a great New Year's Eve service. We had an awesome time. I want to thank everybody that came, every church that was represented to come out and to be a part of our New Year's celebration. Resurrection Quartet did a wonderful job.
They did. Yeah, they did.
They did. I told Dominick last night that when I retire from pastoring, which ain't too far down the road, I'm going to join a quartet and sing. And I think I could do it. I ought to get up and try it. I think I could do that like that there and all of that. I really think I could.
Well, he already got the velvet jacket, so you
Two
might be all right.
I got a gray one and I got a purple
You need a
one.
red one.
So, I already got that.
You need a red one.
And then Cut the Barber came and made us laugh.
Yeah.
And so if y'all are looking for a Christian comedian that's local, give Cut the Barber a call because he will do a wonderful job at your birthday parties, at your anniversary services, your cookouts. You want a different kind of entertainment. Cut the Barber cleaned up his comedy act last night and did it for the Church of God. But he can come and do whatever, so give him a call. Dominick, what are we going to talk about?
Well, let's talk about, since around this time last year, you were president.
I was the president of the Baptist General Convention of Virginia. Yes, I was.
So
Now I'm not.
you're not. But out of those 2 years, did it kind of help you in terms of, dealing with another set of types of people? I guess in terms of it's not just 70, 80 people on a Sunday, but you're dealing with over 1,000 churches under, on your shoulders and leading them to some things that they have not done in a real long time.
I think one of the biggest joys for me was not just being the president of Baptist General Convention, but being the second pastor from the Eastern Shore in the 125-year history of the Baptist General Convention. Second pastor from the Eastern Shore, and the connection that my family had to the late Reverend Dr. Charles Francis Mapp. I remember when he became president, I was in middle school, and that was the biggest thing going in the black church on the Eastern Shore. Charles Mapp is president of the Baptist Convention, and they loaded buses, and Kenny Parker was the minister of music, and they took the association choir, and they went behind him. I think then it was 3 years.
Yeah.
And he married my mom and dad. My father and him were very good friends, and he catechized me. And so to follow him, that meant so much to me. Now, did I learn a lot? Yes. I learned more than we have time to talk about tonight. I saw church from a different spectrum. What we do in Ebenezer or Mount Calvary or St. Mary's is one thing. What we do on the convention level, denominational work, is a whole nother thing. And when I walked into being president, I didn't see it. Now, mind you, I had been first vice, I had been secretary, I had worked on committees, I had served as chair of the planning committee, I had worked on different things, I had traveled with them beforehand, but I moved up, and I'm going to tell you a story, because denominational work is something like politics. It's all in who you know. It used to be all in what you gave, and it's all in whether they like you or not. When I became secretary, or when I got ready to be secretary, I got a phone call from Greg Howard. And Greg Howard said to me, it was in February, I forget the year, whatever year it was. I think it was 2018, maybe. It was 2018. And he said, we're looking at you to be secretary. I paused. I said, okay. I said, if it's the will of the people, I will accept. Because I had been on the nominating committee for years. So I knew how cutthroat, how political that was. I had seen them do some stuff to some other pastors that thought they were going to get in, and they cut them out. I immediately got in my truck, went to my mother's house, and I said to her, BGC just called and want me to be secretary of the convention. She said to me, Palmer, she said, don't tell nobody else that.
Yeah.
And I looked at her, because I was excited, like, oh, I'm going to be secretary. This is a blessing. She said, don't tell nobody else that, because they might not give it to you. And so I took that, because, she was brutally honest.
Yeah.
And so that was February, so time to go to BGC. BGC was in Roanoke that year. And so here we go, packing up the car, going to Roanoke, 6 hours. And God blessed me to become secretary. Hardest job I'd ever had. Because I had to write notes, I had to type, and I had them typing, I was writing, they were typing. Wisteria, thank you so much. And they were typing and writing, typing and writing. Yeah, this is unscripted, so you might see us get up, go get a drink of water, anything. And so it was a lot of work. And so then it became time for election cycle again. And you're a big boy, Dominick.
I am, just like you.
Yeah, you're a big boy.
Just like you.
And it was time for me to become first vice president. So then they decided to change up the officer's role.
Right, yeah.
They decided to go from president, first vice, second vice, and they added a third vice. So now the question became, would Palmer Bunting move from secretary to the first vice position where he's supposed to go, or would he move into the second vice position? I moved to first vice. In the pandemic, I was sitting on my tractor, true story. I was sitting on my tractor, and I don't know whether I was going to cultivate sweet potatoes. I was going to cultivate sweet potatoes. And I became first vice president of the Baptist General Convention on my way to the sweet potato field. So now now the next move is president. And so my mother was still in her right mind. And so she says to me the same thing. She says, Palmer, don't you tell nobody that you're going to be president, because I don't think they're going to give it to you. I said, why? She says, because you're from the Eastern Shore, and you got to give a lot of money, and you all don't always give the amount of money that they need, because the Eastern Shore and sometimes we just can't give those large sums of money. And so I followed it. I followed her advice, which I didn't do enough of. We may talk about that some too. And lo and behold, fast forward, I became president of Baptist General Convention, stayed there 2 years. God favored me. I went across the length and breadth of this state, preaching, teaching, representing this convention. And I had a grand time. I met some good friends, made some lasting relationships. God blessed me, opened up doors for me. And so I am grateful. I've learned how to see people differently.
Yeah.
I've learned patience. I've learned that you don't always get what you want. And we were blessed to do a lot of great work, to bring a lot of stuff to light, to clean up some stuff. We did a lot with the children's home. We got a lot of grants. And all that was done under my administration, so I'm grateful. And I had a good time. And I'm glad it's over because it's a lot of work, and my churches suffered. Ebenezer Baptist Church suffered because anybody that knows me knows that when I get in something, I'm all in. And so there was a lot of times that I was just a preacher here. They were pastoring themselves. And I've had to apologize because St. Mary's came in on my last year. Mm-hmm. They came in on, did they come in my last year?
It was like November last year.
And so I was there as interim, but I wasn't there as full-time pastor. But Ebenezer was with me through the secretary, first vice president, and I traveled just as much as secretary and first vice as I did as president. And so Ebenezer struggled. They suffered because I was not a good pastor to them. And a lot of pastors won't admit when they're not good, but I admit it. I failed them for about 3.5, 4 years because I was not where I needed to be. And so now we're at a rebuilding stage, getting back on track stage, and we might talk about that some too. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I had a good time. And the other thing that I enjoyed, not only following Charles Francis Matt, but I enjoyed being able to bring folk from the Eastern Shore to that platform.
Yeah.
If they did not get on the platform, it was because they didn't want it. It wasn't because I didn't try.
Right.
And some of them didn't want it for whatever reason. But I tried to give it to as many as I could. And I made that known to Baptist General when I became president. I'm going to bring the Eastern Shore with me. I'm not just going to cater to Northern Virginia, Richmond, Southside Virginia. The Eastern Shore is going to become a major part of this convention, and they're going to be on the map. And so the blessing of that, when I walked out of the presidency, we now have representation in the women's ministry. We have representation in the clergy. Mm-hmm. Minister Karen Downing is, I think, the vice president. She will move up to be president. And so that is an awesome thing. And I'm grateful to God that I was able to make certain that many of you all could go with me on that journey and stay on that journey.
Yeah, because I think I kind of started on your secretary. And I think my actual first convention that I played was in Norfolk.
Yeah.
And so you put me
now
on.
They don't want nobody else to be up there on the organ but them. The people get off the organ. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. People get off the organ. I watched this last year. They got off the organ for him to get on it.
And they didn't know me.
Didn't know him. Didn't know him. Yeah.
But, I'm, even with that and having my hand on some of the graphic work and stuff like that, stuff they haven't done in a while, it was a lot from you to allow me to
because
take what I done here.
Yeah, I am meticulous, and I took my spirit of meticulousness. That's not a word.
Catch that, Karen.
Yeah, Karen Downing caught that. I took that with me to the convention because I don't like stuff done. I'm like cutting the bob. I'm in church. I can't say half posterior. I don't like it done that way. And so I want things done right. And so we had to make some minor changes to the social media concept, to the marketing. Marketing is key in 2024 or 2025. Marketing your church is just as important as what you preach. You market it through your preaching, but you also need to market what you're offering other than preaching. And so I take great pride in spending time marketing our activities, because if you don't have anybody coming to support what you're doing, who are you ministering to? So
yeah, because it's more than just, I know we are live on our app, on Facebook, on YouTube, stuff like that, but it also takes the congregation to not only just share it, but sometimes just word of mouth.
Yeah.
Get the word out, while you're on the phone.
Yeah.
stuff like that. I mean, if we have to, some are still going back to printed material, just to post in the post office. You know, the small stuff like that would get around. Or if you have all call, or in my case, I'm doing text messaging starting doing text messaging with my church. It's just, I think the important relationship that you should have with your church is communication. Yeah. If you don't have communication, then stuff won't get done.
Yeah. So. And what I'm trying to push for both of my churches is the fact of you in the pew bringing somebody with you to the events, to the services. That speaks volumes. When I walked out here last night, we wasn't giving nothing away. And let me say this. For me, I don't give stuff away on New Year's Eve to draw a crowd. I want to put that out there for the people, for the haters. I don't give stuff away to draw a crowd. I give stuff away because the church is always asking of the persons in the pew to give. When does the church say, hey, this time we're going to be a blessing to you and we're going to make it fun? And it was fun to watch folk hear that number call and see if they're going to win that AFRA or win a television. And we didn't do it this year. We may do it next year. I don't know. I got to come up with something new and different for New Year's Eve next year to do. And so,
well, let's talk about your theme, not of this year yet, but last year's theme was Year of Transformation.
Year of Transformation.
Now, personally, with what's been going on, not just in the church, but personally with you, is there some things that transformed for you that made you a better person, a better pastor?
I learned that on many occasions, all you have is God. You cannot rely on people because people are with you when they are agreeing with you. And when they disagree, they pull back. Last year put me closer to God than I've ever been in 48 years, because there were some things that I went through that only God could carry me through. Losing a mother, dealing with leadership issues in the church, in one of my churches, taking on the role of pastoring two churches, two very different churches, different worship styles, which require me to preach. A lot of Sundays I preach two different sermons. I didn't do it Advent. Advent, they got I read Luke 1 for 3 or 4 Sundays.
You wore it out.
I wore it out. I had to really get close to God because there were some times that I did not know if God was listening to me. I would come in this church and sit on that pew and say, God, where are you? Because I see the enemy. I feel the enemy, but I don't feel you. And towards the end of the year, it seemed like the closer we got to last night, the harder the attacks. I heard God continuously say to me, you go preach. You preach what I tell you. Wow. And let me handle everything else. Everything in your personal life, everything with your leaders, everything with the loss of your mother and the grief that you're still carrying. You go preach and preach this. And I heard him and I began to do that. And then he said to me, just keep silent. Don't talk till I tell you. because I'm like my father. Once you piss me off, I'm coming back with a vengeance. Now, when I mesh my mother and father together, that's a problem. And I'm not a bully, but you're not going to back me in a corner.
Yeah.
And so I had to really stay close to God. And so a lot of times I haven't, and I'm gonna share this because I want to help somebody. I don't know if I've slept through the night, the last 3 months. I don't know if I've slept all the way through the night, either night. It would be nothing for me to wake up at 3 in the morning, because when you get a certain age, you wake up at 3 in the morning because you got to go urinate. Mm-hmm. You ain't got that yet.
Oh, I got there.
You're not that old, though. I'll be 49 in 2
Yeah,
years.
9 year difference.
Yeah, but that's
40.
still 9 years is 9 years. I wasn't getting up at 3 in the morning. That was I don't know. Anyway, I would get up at 3 in the morning and sometimes would not go back to sleep, and I would just read my Bible, pray. A minute night, I prayed myself to sleep. A minute night, I would wake up at 4 and 5. Those nights that I would be sleeping 4 and 5, and I would wake up praying. I'd be half asleep, but I'd be praying. Because, and I told them at the altar last night, to have a happy new year, it's not about money, it's not about homes, cars, material stuff. You got to have a prayer life. And to pastor people, your prayer life got to be intact, because you're being hit by other pastors. You're being hit by members who are not satisfied. You're being hit by leaders who feel like they know more than what you know sometimes. And sometimes they do. But then you're being hit by leaders that don't show up. You're being hit by persons that don't give, and you still got to keep all this going.
Yeah.
And then you got your own personal life. You got businesses to run, businesses to grow. You know, you're trying to be who you are. You know, and so I'm a person who don't share a lot. I keep it. I keep it bottled in. And Shanae Cooper gets on me about that all the time. But I don't share, because sometimes when you share things, you have to be careful, because you can't trust people. Yeah. And so I found myself last year talking to God more than I've ever talked before. And I want to share something about a preacher, and I'm gonna let folk know. You always have to have one pastor that you can go to that can check you in a godly manner and pray for you. Yeah. And I had that. And this pastor did that for me and continues. I'll share this, and we're just flowing. My mother's 1 year anniversary of death was the 22nd of December, which is on a Sunday. But she actually died on the Friday before Christmas. And so that Friday, I was here. I came to the cemetery. It was raining. And her favorite song was His Sweet I Know. And so I had that playing in my ear. And I was at the cemetery. And I was crying. I was emotional. And all of a sudden, my phone rings. And of all the people that could have called me, it was this one pastor that called me and said, I need to talk to you. And I shared with her what was going on. And she began to minister to me and counsel me. And by the time she got done, I said, God, I thank you, because I needed that to help me get through that moment. And so transformation was me learning that people are people. Yeah. And you can only be mad with them so long, because sometimes people don't realize they're hurting you. Yeah. People don't realize what they say and what they do hurts you. People have their own opinions about how things will be. And in church, people have so many opinions that they feel the church is supposed to be this way, this way, this way. And if it's not that way, then that's a problem, because we've done a very poor job of teaching them what thus saith the Lord as it relates to how the church should operate. And when they don't walk in that vein, we as pastors get mad when we should be mad with ourselves because we're not teaching.
Yeah.
And so what I've decided to do in 25 is I'm going to kind of change my preaching style some. You know, I'm still going to go get it.
We know.
I'm going to go get it on them Sundays that I feel like I want to go get it. I'm hoping I'll never change that.
Oh, no, I don't think so.
But I'm going to spend more time in a mode of teaching, because there are some things that we don't understand. And so, man, last year, man, was one hell of a year for me.
Yeah.
You know, I dealt with some personal stuff, and people don't understand. The pastor is always under some kind of attack. The enemy is always after the pastor, and he will find a way to get into your life. And before you realize it, he's already taken into a portion of your life. Yeah. And so I thank God that my mother and father taught me how to pray. Because had they not, I would not have survived some of the stuff I went through last year. Either I'd been in jail or I wouldn't have survived it. Because the scripture says it best. If it had not been for the Lord, you follow me?
On my side.
So it was transforming for me, man. It really was.
And now this year, I know you're going to start on it Sunday.
We can talk about it.
Now you're talking about becoming better.
Becoming better.
So what led from transformation to now becoming better?
Jamar Jones, the #1 Dirty Birds fan anywhere.
Boo.
And him and I were having a conversation about church, which we talk about church sometimes about every week. And we were talking about themes. And something come up about becoming better. And it hit me. I said, that's my theme for 25. And so my objective from that is, what areas in our life are we failing in? To the point that we are too embarrassed to talk about it. You will never become better at something until you first admit that this is an area that needs improvement. Yeah. So, for example, one of the areas I'm going to deal with is becoming better in our health. If I never sit down and say, what can I do to make my health better? I weigh 319. Lost 1 pound the other week. I'm overweight. I shouldn't be 319. I should probably be 280, 275, because that stuff they tell y'all, white folks' bodies and black people's bodies are different.
Two different things.
Don't let them people tell you that I'm not supposed to be 122. If I look like I'm 122, I'm on my way to the cemetery. Bunking boy coming to get me. So I'll be happy with 270, 280. I'll be happy with that. The doctor ain't, but I'm going to be happy with that. And so why can't we bring in a chef that specializes in healthy meals?
Like meal prep.
Meal prep. Mm-hmm. Show us how to take cauliflower and rice and make it into a meal. Show us how to take certain vegetables and turn them into wingdings or whatever they're doing now. Vegan and go in the dining hall, sit down, and let them show us. And not just preach it and teach it, but lead the church through that moment. Yeah. Becoming a better giver. You're complaining about your members not giving any money. What are you doing to show them how to first manage what they earn? Because if I can't manage the $1,500 I get every week,
Right.
it's no way I can give the church $150. I can't give the church $150. 10% of $1,500. I ain't that good in math, but I know that's
$150.
I can't give the church $150 if I can't manage the $1,500, and if I can't pay my electric bill, my direct TV bill, my internet bill, my house insurance, my house payment, my car payment. My child needs this, my child needs that, my child needs the other. I need a new pair of socks. My wife needs a new pair of blouses or whatever. And if I can't get all that done, but then you're fussing at me because I haven't paid my tithe, well, you have not taught me how to manage my money. So before I say X, Y, Z to you about tithing, let's talk about money management. And I'm not teaching that. Somebody's going to come in and deal with it. So all year long, we're going to deal with becoming better. And whoever comes to preach for me, they're going to be required to look at that theme in some way, shape, or form. Because there's no need of us bringing in preachers to preach annual days, and for the last 7 weeks, you've been preaching on becoming better. Then I bring in somebody to preach Men's Day, and they go way out to Switzerland and get a sermon.
Yeah.
We're going to keep everything in the same order. And so this theme, I've never been this excited about a theme. We've gone and got Reverend Dr. Sierra Smith Bond from Faith Community Baptist Church in Richmond to do our marketing pieces, and we're going to start with them Sunday. We've got our greeters ministry getting ready to start up to welcome the folk, because we are learning that sometimes our church does not appear to be as welcoming as it should be.
And that's a key thing. That's
and I'm going to tell you.
That's important.
And I'm going to tell you, since we're just free flowing, that didn't always set well. When I introduced that, some of my folk couldn't see that.
Yeah.
And I couldn't see some of it because I had heard it.
Yeah.
It had come to me. I said, we're welcoming, we're friendly. And then people that were really close to me started kind of like throwing out little innuendos that, oh, well, you know, blah, blah, blah. I don't feel welcome. And don't y'all try to take up on and put in the comment section about, oh, I felt welcome when I came. That's fine if you felt welcome, but that's not everybody's testimony.
Yeah.
And so what I said I'm going to do when I got this information was I'm going to begin to create a program that reverses that mantra, that reverses that facade. So if we come off as appearing unwelcoming, not hospitable, what can I do to turn that around other than social media?
Right.
I got to do something more than just get on there and say, hey, y'all, I know some of y'all say we're not welcoming, but just come on, give us another chance. No, that's we got to do more than that.
Right.
So we're creating a greeters ministry. We're gonna really hone in starting Sunday on first-time guests. First-time guests are going to be asked to stand. We're going to present, and a lot of churches are doing this. We're going to present them with some of these items that we've gotten, and we're moving around the security. You're not going to have security standing on doors and on walls. They're going to be sitting in pews, watching over the church. When the benediction's over, they're not going to be on doors, standing, looking around. We're not doing any more of that. We're going to let people feel free, because when you come to church, you need to feel like you're at home.
Yeah.
I didn't say get naked, but you should feel at home.
Yeah.
And so, not saying security not going to be around.
Right.
Because we're here in this open space.
Right.
But we're not going to put or keep certain things in place to make you feel like, oh, they don't want us here. Look at you. I'm not doing that. Churches have to begin to have hard conversations. And we don't like to do that.
Yeah.
We don't like to have hard conversations. We got to have them. Because we're in a time now where folk don't have to come to your church.
Well, it's no different like you're a teacher and they always been rowdy. You have to eventually get on them.
You got to get
to
on
let them know I'm not playing with y'all.
You got to come up with something. And so what we're doing with our greeters ministry, we're putting our youth ministry, we're making them active and a part of that greeters ministry. And we're starting out small, and we're going to grow it, and God is going to bless it. And so church now, you constantly got to have your thinking cap on, and you constantly got to ask yourself, what can I do better? And you can't be, when that information came to me being who I am, I got a little tight. But I got over that because I said, okay, let me think about this. Is there some truth to it? So I started observing. And last Sunday when my lodge came, I got a chance to sit out in the audience. And I got a chance to see what others see. I got a chance to walk around for the offering.
Yeah.
I ain't never been able to do that before.
You've done that since Holy Trinity.
I ain't done that since I left Holy Trinity. I'm at a church for some function.
Yeah.
And I refuse to go in the pulpit.
Yeah.
And I got to see and I got to feel. I said, ooh, there's some truth to this. So we work on it. It's not bad because it's just another thing where you have not spent quality time teaching. It's nothing nobody need to get mad about. You got to spend time teaching. And I applaud every pastor that has taken the role of teaching seriously. We spend, and I love to holler. I love it. I love to walk an aisle, walk a pew. I love it. I think that's the greatest thing. I love it. I live for it. But I think we've done our people a grave disservice by not spending quality time sitting with them and teaching them not just the Lord is our shepherd, but why is he our shepherd?
Yeah.
What is it about him being our shepherd that blesses us? Why should we be so excited about him being our shepherd? What is it about his shepherd abilities that blesses us?
Yeah.
And how can we take what he does for us as our shepherd and be a blessing to somebody else that'll preach? We got to spend time doing that. And I'm just at a point in my ministry where I'm willing to be honest and be open and sometimes admit it's me. It's me. And so I got to start looking at myself. What can I do as the pastor to make some of these wrongs right? So that's where I am. Becoming better is going to be a major drive for us here. I've told them everything that goes out, even down to our all call, when we call and remind people of Bible study, remind people of worship, remind people of annual day, whatever, somewhere at the beginning or at the end of that all call, we're Ebenezer Baptist Church and we're becoming better. I want that to be in their ear every week because you got to believe in your heart that you're going to become better than what you've been. And so our theme text for that is that Philippians piece that says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Because I can't become better if I don't get strength from God.
Yeah.
And so that's where we are.
All right. Well, since you was talking about in the pew, I know you kind of went up the ranks, I guess we can say, from being a deacon to a minister. I don't know if you were an usher or anything like that.
Where I started.
So you were the usher or choir member.
I done had every position in the church except musician.
Trustee too?
I've been a trustee too.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I know for me, I'm honored to be trained to be a deacon.
Yeah, congratulations. I'm excited.
I know you are.
I am.
I joked about it. I really joked about it for years. I said, Smith, pastor, hey, man, just make me a deacon. Cause I just kind of saw what he was going through, and I knew he needed more help. And I joked about it. I said, well, if you get me to do it, you got to make sure Palmer Bunting preach it. I don't want nobody else to do it. I ain't want nobody else to do it. He said, all right. And then he hit me up Halloween. We were down the road to Eastville, and he said, I'm going to make you my deacon. I said, hey, I'm more than happy to.
Now, I want you to understand, first, I'm very proud of you.
Yeah.
As your adopted father, I'm very proud of you. I was 18 years old when I became a deacon. 18, I was a boy. Wow. I couldn't even buy beer. That's right. Yeah. I wasn't grown.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't want you to get excited about me preaching your ordination yet, because I'm going to say some things to you that might not feel good to you, but it's going to work out for you good.
And that's the reason why I am excited. Yeah. It's not the fact of you preaching it, but I know you've been through that. Yeah. You've been a deacon. Yeah. And you dealt with that kind of stuff, and I'd rather hear it from somebody who's been through it, who's ups and downs. I'd rather hear it from someone like that versus anybody.
I've been around church 48 years. I tell people all the time, I pray God allows me to be able to maintain my life as a farmer and a pastor or a school teacher, because that's all I really know. I don't know anything. I've not been around anybody else but farmers, school teachers, pastors. In my later years, of course, at the funeral home and a little bit of construction. This thing must don't like me. Here and there. But that's not nothing to brag about. Nothing. All I know is preaching, farming, and teaching school. I've watched deacons. I've seen good ones, and I've seen bad ones. And I was a bad one. I was a fighter. I was a preacher fighter, what they call preacher. I was a preacher fighter because that's all I knew. My daddy was a preacher fighter. Mm-hmm. That's all I knew. I didn't know anything else. And all I knew was the deacon is in charge of the church. Pastor do what the deacon say. This is all I knew. Until I started pastoring, and that didn't work well for me. Mm-hmm. I realized then that I had been wrong. And I had to go to my father in ministry and apologize to him for how I treated him. Because I was terrible. And so I said that to say this, and you'll hear this in my sermon. The one thing I don't want you to do, I don't want you to allow, because of your age and you're so young, considering what the average age of deacons is now, don't let the deacons who are older than you use you as their Martin Luther King. Yeah. You are not, sir, save the church. You are not the pastor's deacon. You are not the church's deacon. You're the Lord's deacon. And your job is to do all you can to follow Acts chapter 6. Help your pastor. Yeah. Serve your pastor. Hold your pastor's arms up. Put out those fires before they get to him. The biggest pet peeve I have with church people is you will stand there and I told you I had something to say, and let folk dog your pastor. And you'll listen. And you'll join in. When he's doing the best he can and is not perfect. Who has the pastor's back? I might preach that. Who has the pastor's back? You should have it because you're the deacon. The deacon's ministry, diaconate ministry, should have the pastor's back. And here's the thing that folk don't like. You got his back when he's right.
And when he's wrong.
And you got his back when he's wrong.
Yeah.
And when he's wrong, you should have a relationship with him where you can go in his office or wherever and sit down and say, Doc, Pastor, I can't figure out this particular move. Help me see it, because I can't see it. But the last thing I want to ever hear And I'm talking to you now as your father, like
Yeah.
you say I am. I don't want to ever hear you and him having an argument in front of the people, disagreeing with him. I don't want you to ever get to a point where you don't shake his hand on Sunday morning or you don't speak to him.
Yeah.
Because I've had all that happen to me.
Yeah.
You don't want that. You don't want the relationship that you have with the man of God to become so stagnated and so hard and so tough that y'all can't even be kind to each other. Because at the end of the day, he's still going to preach.
Right.
And he's still going to stay there
Yeah.
until the Lord says, now you may not stay,
Right.
but he going to stay. And so I'm glad that Pastor Smith is ordaining you. But I don't want you to get caught up in the old boys club, because you are there to serve. You are there to get up and go and do when nobody else won't. So if it's Tuesday and he said, Dominick, we're going to go serve communion today. You off? Yeah, I'm off. Then you go serve communion with him.
Yeah.
And you gotta learn. You need to know how to pray, publicly and privately, because as a deacon, you need to be praying for your pastor every day. You need to know how to lead the focus. You don't sing, so you need to know how to lead the church in a song. We're gonna sing "What a Friend." Y'all started. You need to know that, and that's not no problem for you, because you know that red book like the back of your hand.
I do.
But you also need to know how to get up and give a word. You ain't got to holler. You ain't got to walk no pews.
Right.
But you need to be able to stand in that pulpit. If he gets to church and starts feeling bad and can't go out, or it's 9:47 and he calls it, listen, I overslept. I'm not going to make it. I've never had that problem. I've had dreams.
Really?
Man, I had a dream, and this was years ago, that I was supposed to be preaching here. I couldn't find my robe. I was trying to find my robe. I couldn't find my robe. I was home, couldn't find my robe. But I wasn't in my house in Sandfield. I don't know what house I was in. Somewhere. I couldn't find my robe. I was there by myself. I was hard to find my robe. And the more I hollered, the further I couldn't find my robe. And it was getting late, and the people was here waiting, and I knew they was here waiting. Oh, man, I've had all kind of dreams like that. About my sermon, losing my sermon and stuff. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, you don't have no problem doing that.
No,
You switch up quick.
Yeah, I'll switch up, but I don't play with my sermon. If I'm manuscripting, I keep that close to me. Don't play with that. But no, seriously, I want you to be a deacon that God will be proud. And I want you to find a good mentor that's doing it the way it should be done, and let them mentor you. Because every pastor needs someone that he can confide in and depend on in the church. And so I'm looking forward to what God is going to do through you.
Thank you.
I am. I really am. And I say that with all sincerity, because if I didn't believe that you had the ability, I would say, Dominick, that ain't for you. But I think you're going to do well. Because you're already doing it. You're already at the church working. You're already at the church. You're already taking care of Jeff. You're already looking out for him. You're already making sure he's taken care of.
Yeah.
You're already doing that. So now you just sealing the deal. Sealing the deal. And we got to go get you a black suit.
Yeah, we got to get a black suit.
Yes, sir.
I have a blue one, but
we're going to get him a black suit. Yes, sir.
I got my black tie, I got my white shirt.
We're going to get him a black suit, and we're going to get him a pair of Meslin shoes.
Oh, God.
Fix him up. Yes, sir. We're going to fix him up good.
And I know we talked about this before the podcast, and I'm still quite interested of your answer. I was talking to a friend of mine in Miami today, ironically, and I asked her.
I'd like to be in Miami tonight.
Yes, Lord.
My God.
what would be a more unique situation? An older pastor with younger deacons, or a younger pastor with older deacons?
A younger pastor with older deacons, I would say, needs to learn the art of patience. He needs to have the ability to speak the language. When I came to Ebenezer, I was 26 years old.
Right.
I had Prentice, John William, Linwood, Albert. I made Jake Ball when I got here. I made
Uncle Roy.
When I got here. Uncle Roy. I had about 6 or 7 full-time in church every Sunday, deacons. And that was the best church I had. And when I say best church, what I mean by that is some good Sunday morning worship. Because Prentice and them said, you better preach, you better preach. And the more they hollered, the more I preached. I preached so hard back then, Linwood Smith had a sign to tell me, bring it in.
Good God.
I mean, I would go for blood every Sunday because they were pushing me. Deacons don't push the preacher now, like they're not where I am. They don't do it now. They might do it other places. But those deacons pushed me, and I was young. I was 26. And they took care of me. I was married at the time with children. And I was young. I didn't have much. I hadn't got on my feet good yet. And there was never a cold winter or a hot summer. Ebenezer Church has taken care of me. I am blessed.
They have.
You follow me?
Still have.
And still blessing me.
Yep.
I can say a lot about a lot of things, but I can't say that they don't take care of me. But those deacons set the standard, and the ones, my trustees now, have taken over, taking care of me. And I think sometimes they think I'm the child. They think I'm the son, but we'll talk there. They'll get me for that on Sunday. Those deacons set the standard. I didn't have to worry about anything. Sunday morning, in my little office over there, the heat was already on. Prentice would call me, you want the heat on in your office? I'm like, yeah, I want it on. Okay. And I walk in and preach. Now, my other church got a good deacon board down there.
Yeah.
And Tommy Parker's a good deacon. My deacons now have gotten older. They're sickly. When James Lewis Carter and James Sample were on their feet, I didn't want for nothing as a pastor. James Lewis was going to be there. He put out the fires.
Yeah.
They wasn't getting close to me. He'd take care of it. Jake Ball used to come, Pastor, I'm going to cut your grass because you ain't cutting it right. I'm going to trim your bushes, Pastor, you ain't got time to do that. And he took care of my mama for me, took care of my mama's yard for me. They did what they knew how to do. They took care of me.
Yeah.
I was young. And we had moments where because I was always high strung. I was always, And I remember, true story, we were talking about remodeling this church, and I wanted to build a family life center.
Yeah, I remember that.
I wanted to go right out by those pine trees. I wanted to build a family life center. We drew it up, and I wanted a bookstore, and I wanted classrooms, because I've always wanted to do conferences. I stopped doing them after the pandemic, and I said I was going to start back, but that's another story for another day. And I wanted conferences, and I put my office at a suite, and the trustees, it was laid out real pretty. Oh, my Lord, it was pretty. And so that was going to be phase 1.
Good Lord.
We're going to build that out there, phase 1. The remodel section would be phase 2.
Okay.
And boy, I was talking it up. I was in the pulpit talking it up. I was going to town. Doris Sample had got the plans together. We were laying the plans out. I had sketched out because I sketched my plans out myself. And he'd take them and get them right. And we was getting it.
2-floor?
I think part of it was 2-story. Prentice Christian called me one night. That's that old nigga you talk. You did by building this building, got enough room around there now. Tell me, but we got enough room right here. I'm pastor. Tell me. I ain't going to support that. I'll support remodeling the sanctuary. I was young. And some pastors may not agree with this, but now that I'm older, I still feel that I made the right decision. And here's the decision that I made. Simple. We remodeled the sanctuary. Do you follow me?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we paid it off in less time than what it took.
Yeah. What, 20?
It was supposed to be 20 years. I think I paid off in maybe 10.
Because we did a New Year's, we did a watch night. We burned it,
night.
I want to say going in 22?
Yeah. And had I built the Family Life Center, we would probably still be paying for it. And the pandemic would have hit and you wouldn't have no conferences. Yeah. And all that wasted space.
Just sitting there.
Just sitting there.
Yep.
He didn't know nothing about a pandemic. He didn't know nothing about that. But those old diggers had what you call mother wit. Y'all don't know nothing about that. They could see stuff. The younger pastor and the older digger need to spend quality time together to get on one accord. But then you have the older pastor, younger digger. Am I right?
Yeah.
That's a whole different situation. Because now, the older pastor is stuck in his way, where I see myself moving into. But you got the younger digger who has a lot of energy, a lot of drive, and doesn't really, and younger people, for the most part, some of them, don't feel that the older generation knows anything.
Yeah.
Can't tell me nothing. And so they are forceful. That's a dangerous combination because sometimes that younger digger will get around the older pastor and begin to be the pastor. Not saying them old diggers wouldn't be the pastor with the younger guy. The old diggers wouldn't be the pastor with the younger pastor. Not saying it wouldn't. But you got to be careful with that. Sometimes pastors stay too long.
Yeah.
When you can no longer be versatile, when you can no longer change with the times, when you can no longer see out in your congregation. I looked out in Ebenezer and I said, boy, you ain't teaching enough. You got changed in 25. You got to do something different. And I talked to myself and said, self, and self said, laugh, that's supposed to be funny. You've got to come in with a different model. You can't keep doing what you've been doing. The older pastor sometimes doesn't want to change. The younger digger sometimes will take advantage of that and become the pastor. And before long, the congregation will be following the young digger and not the older pastor. Mm-hmm. Know when your time is up. I came to Ebenezer talking about retiring. I've never been afraid to have the conversation. They don't like it. But I know my time is drawing nigh. They don't like it. I'm looking at your face now, you don't like it. But my time as pastor here is coming to the ending of a day. When you start staying somewhere 25 years, 30 years, age start catching up with you. Tiredness starts catching up with you. And post-pandemic church is so different from pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
Post-pandemic, pre-pandemic, you could walk in a church on a Sunday morning and see 125 people.
Yep.
And you'd raise $4,172.12 on the third Sunday in April. On the last Sunday of the month, you might go down to about 2,800. Post-pandemic, you see 40 or 50 people, Now, some of these churches may be seeing more. See, 40, 50, 60 at the most. And we're not going to talk about what the offering looks like.
Yeah.
But here's the problem. The bills, the salaries, the upkeep, the maintenance, the taxations, the mission work has gotten bigger.
Yeah.
You cannot get a pastor to be your pastor that's worth anything for what you paid 15 years ago. What you paid me when I first came to Ebenezer versus what you're paying now
Yeah. Yeah.
is different.
It's different. It's definitely
And
different.
nobody wants to talk about that. And so when you talk about giving, when you talk about stewardship, when you talk about fundraising, you got to look at that. And we don't have, I'm heavy on hard conversations. We don't like to have them.
Yeah.
Preachers that are worth anything are not coming for honey bun and a piece of spiced ham. Them days are over. Now, Ebenezer's blessed because I am a businessman, and I have always tried to keep something going. So I don't push the envelope like some, but I keep throwing out hints to them that there's a day coming that you're going to get someone else.
Yeah.
And what you're getting now, what you're doing now may not be satisfactory to the next man.
Yeah.
Any good pastor that's worth something will always try to prepare their church for the next guy. And I'm at a point in my life now where I want to start preparing the church for the next chapter, because churches are changing, people are changing, congregational needs are changing. And we all who have been doing this 20 plus years, I know I got 3 left in me because I'm determined to get to 25.
Right.
But I don't know if I got 30 in me.
Right.
If I had to answer that tonight, I would tell you no.
No. Yeah.
I don't have 30 in me. A lot of it, and I'm gonna and let's have an honest, transparent moment. E. Dewey Smith talks about the traumatic experience of losing a mother. And he said his ministry and his preaching changed. When my mother died, my fervor, my zeal, my push diminished. It didn't die because she taught me better, but it diminished. I don't know whether it would have been that bad if she wasn't a member. And I didn't see her in that pew every Sunday.
Right, every week, yeah. Yeah.
But it diminished. And I'll be 49 in 2 weeks. I've been working around the church since I was old enough to talk. I'm tired. I want to travel. I want to go to Dubai. I want to go to England. I'm going to New Orleans regardless of what happens. I'm praying for those people that answer my city. I love going to New Orleans. I want to get up and travel. I want to buy a boat and go fishing. A big boat. Like a 32, 34 footer. I don't want no foot tub. I want to not retire and be sick, have to retire because I'm sick.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to retire and enjoy retirement. I've seen so many pastors right on the shore retire and die because they waited too long. Or they preached right, pastored right up till death.
Yeah.
I don't want that, man. My predecessor did that. He pastored this church right to the grave for 49 years. And God, and I know some people are probably writing on that about you got to wait for God. Yeah, God. That's true. And I'm praying to God, show me when it's time and let me be satisfied. Because I'm going to tell you, I'm going to Holy Trinity, sit in the back with a T-shirt on and some khaki pants and my sneakers. I'm not buying no more Meslins. I'm not getting no more suits made. I'm going in the back. I'm not singing on no choir. I'm not serving on no board. I'm going in the back and sit, pay my tithe, and when the benediction's over, I'm going out the door because I've pastored, and you're not going to corner me. What should we do? He don't know, sir. Willie Justice won't have that with me. I'm in the back. Benediction down to him. Deuces. If y'all don't get me while I'm going out the door, you're not going to get me. By the time you look for me, I'm going to be out the lane, up the road.
Greg, go and watch some Gunsmoke.
Go on, watch Gunsmoke. Eat me some turkey wings. Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed this, but your podcast, that's maybe we need to talk about later too, it's turning 4. You've been
4 years old.
You've been doing it for 4 years.
You need to have a party, Paul. Yeah, boy.
And I mean, you had some.
I've had some major names.
You had some names.
Billy Northern, Sammy Cooper, Renita Major.
Clinton McFarland. You had Larry McCray and the bishop from Delaware. I think y'all did the political during the pandemic. We did that.
Yeah.
Did Deacon White from First Baptist Salisbury.
Yeah.
And I mean, you've done a lot. So.
And I want to do more. I want to really hone in on that in 25. I enjoy talking to people. I used to get in trouble as a kid in school. They would tell my mama, Ms. Bunting is a good child, he's smart, but he just talks in class. And now I talk for a living. Yeah, God birthed that. I think God birthed it in both of us.
Yeah.
And we titled it, and it's been such a blessing. I hope it's been a blessing to you as it has been to me. And we've been on location. We've done stuff about the funeral.
Yep.
Pre-planned, and we've done stuff about pandemic. It really birthed in the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
We would sit here behind that Sunday school table every week and just encourage folk.
Yep.
And so we got to start lining up our people, because I got some folk that's on my list that I want to interview, that I want to talk to. I'd like to talk to Sammy Cooper again now that he's retired.
Yeah.
And get the retired Sammy. It's a lot of folk that I'd like to interview, that I'd like to talk to. I would like to interview Linwood Wright.
He preached Sunday.
He did. I would like to interview Linwood Wright. He baptized me when I was a kid, when he was pastor at Holy Trinity.
Yeah.
And I would love to interview him. He has always been one of my favorite preachers to listen to because I'm a word man.
Yeah.
And his vocabulary has been masterful.
Yeah.
Masterful. And he is an accomplished musician.
And we're not going to talk about Charmaine, and Jermaine,
They're
his children.
They're just like their father.
Just like their father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had him and Bishop Diane Wright played a major role in my upbringing, in my early years. I mean, major. And so I think right much of him. Yeah.
Well, speaking of Wright, I know this is very random, but
we're random.
How was the relationship?
Like Green
I know
Bay Packers suck. We're random. 49ers is sitting on the couch.
Yeah, you sure is. So how was it working with the late Louis Brim?
Oh. Louis Brim. I'm laughing because I think I inherited Louis Brim's funeral preaching status.
Oh, we're gonna talk about that. You just gave me what I needed.
Because Louis Brim preached all the funerals in Acrobat just about at the funeral. And I do declare I've inherited that from him. I think he left that in his will to me. I'm gonna ask Fatima, his daughter, that's what he left me. Louis Brim was one of my favorite preachers to hear as a boy. You gotta understand, when I was a boy, I went to church. And so the Brims, the Baylarks, the Lewis Watsons.
That Willie Carter.
Let me see.
Willie Carter.
Oh my God, have mercy. Yes, sir. Look at here. Yes, sir. Carter. Yes, sir. Carter had that part.
That part.
I told my mom one time, I said, Mom, I want a part like Reverend Carter. Palmer, go sit down. Get down, get a part. And so I was raised up listening to Wilson and Mapp. Mapp wasn't a hooper.
No, he wasn't.
But Mapp was strategic in his delivery. Rucker wasn't a hooper, but he was strategic in his delivery.
Pull his pants up.
Pull his pants up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rucker and them, and they were smart.
Yeah.
They knew Baptist politics. This is an inside thing. A lot of churches back then, when they'd get in trouble, the preacher and them had problems, the Diggins would call, we just got through talking about Diggins, they would call Charles Mapp. The pastor wouldn't even know it. Get advice.
Wow.
Lewis Thomas Brim pastored several churches on the Eastern Shore. Matomkin, Gospel Temple. He was at Holy Trinity twice. He pastored a church up in West Post Office, I think. The same church where Jamal Bivens is. I think it's that church.
Wow. St. Mary's.
I think.
Wow.
I might be wrong. Don't quote me. That Jamal Bivens is watching here. Correct me. Call me tomorrow, Jamal Bivens, and tell me if I was wrong. And Lewis Brim taught me so much that I don't have time to tell you. I learned more from him sitting in his little office in Accomack as a probation officer.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Than I did in the church. Brim showed me how to preach to the common man. And what I mean by that is just a regular blue-collar worker on a level they could understand and not take too long.
Right.
What always mesmerized me with Lewis Brim is the same thing with Charles Kellum. Open the book, start talking, and go for blood.
I don't know how Kellum did it.
I watched him yesterday.
Oh, I was.
One of the best to ever do it.
Oh, my God.
And to stand there and do it. And he gets that growl. He has that growl.
Yeah.
It's like he's going to come out and grab you.
He learned that from Tim Glenn, right?
Yeah, that growl. And so Lewis Brim, one of the greatest things Lewis Brim told me, he said, Palmer, as I was getting ready to pastor, he said, don't start working on your sermon for next Sunday, next week. Start Sunday night. And I've never
Pastor Smith said the same thing. He said he'd do the same thing.
I don't pick up a Bible, because when I leave here on Sunday afternoon,
It's still up there.
Most of them I leave there.
Yeah.
I will go home and I'm chilling out. Mm-hmm. But my mind is constantly, this is what folk don't know about me, and it's a sad thing. I really got to get deliverance from it. I really do. Most of the time, my mind is on a sermon. That's crazy. I don't care where I am. My mind is on preaching. And that's scary, because that says I need help. Brim taught me how to think through the text. What can I say to the people out of this text to bless them? And do it in 12 minutes. And be versatile. Yeah. Brim wasn't no bona fide hooper.
Right, yeah.
He did what I call the Martin Luther King style. He lifted his voice. And I'm telling you, man, I learned so much. And Brim and I had something in common. He had a car fetish. I got a car fetish. And so, anybody want to buy me a car, I'm open. I'll take it just when you
Porsche.
Like, you ain't got to be a Porsche. Just
what?
Bless me. No, you got to be a Porsche. You can just bless me. Just say, Palmer, I want to take you by car. Yeah, I'm serious. Or a tractor. I'll take a tractor.
Yeah, you take a tractor.
7 Series, 240 John Deere, or 85 horsepower John Deere front end loader. Glad to take it. Just tell me meet you at the John Deere store. I learned a lot from Brim. I learned a lot more from Baylord.
Who hasn't?
This pew right here.
Oh, man.
This pew right here in the old Ebenezer. Wilson had him running revival.
Oh, man.
And I don't remember what night it was. My mother and all was sitting there at the long pews up there.
Yeah, long pews over there. Yeah.
And I asked my mom, I said, Mom, I want to go over there and sit and watch Reverend Baylock preach. Now listen to what I said. I want to watch Reverend Baylock preach. I was no more than about 6 or 7 years old. I sat right on that pew, and I never shall forget, I sat like this. And I watched him meticulously preach. And to this day, I can say this publicly. Carl Baylock is undoubtedly, and I've heard preachers all over the country.
Yeah.
He is in my top 3 favorite preachers.
I agree. Yeah, he's
so
up my
much
list.
So that before I got a hectic schedule, because I used to eat breakfast every Sunday morning, I don't get to do it now. I would listen to his 8 o'clock service.
Yes, sir.
His style, his cadence, his delivery, and the New England Baylock is different from the Franktown Baylock.
Yeah.
The Franktown Baylock would go get it.
Go here, you go. He right for it.
But you got to understand, the Franktown Baylock was in his 20s and 30s.
Right, yeah.
He's going to break out in a song. He knows every hymn in the hymn book. Some of the hymns I don't even know.
Verses I never heard of.
But here is what I've been blessed with. To sit after service in a room on the floor. If my knees wasn't bad, I'd show you. And just sit and just shut up.
Listen.
And let him talk.
Yeah.
And you don't realize how much of a blessing that was to me in my ministry. To listen to him and to glean from him. Lewis Watson is another one.
Oh, God, yes.
Lewis Watson is in my top 3, top 5. Local. Mm-hmm. I've never seen a preacher command a room like Lewis Watson.
Yeah, I agree. Totally agree.
And I'm so bothered by the fact that the revival climate is different. Mm-hmm. Because I regret not being able to bring him to run my revival at Ebenezer. He preached First Ladies' Day.
Yeah.
He preached Church Anniversary. But I never got him to preach revival because he was always preaching for Charles. I said, well, is that Charles' first week in September? Mm-hmm. Why bring him back to my church first week in October? People just got through hearing him. Lewis Watson, I could hear Lewis Watson preach every week.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, some preachers I ain't gonna sit, I couldn't sit on them every week. But he, and I said that, I don't have a problem saying it. Because I'm to a point in my life now where I don't run mad for platforms.
Right.
I have 2, 10:30, 12:30. Platforms now don't bother me. I've turned down more than what I take.
Yeah.
And I'm very selective now when I go. Lewis Watson, Lewis Brim, Jeffrey Smith.
This dude.
If you want a funeral preached masterfully on a Saturday afternoon, robe up Jeff Smith, put his Stacey Adams on him, put him in the pulpit with his notebook, and let him go. Get out of his way and let him go. Bring your notebook to take notes. I've learned, and all of them that I just named could preach a funeral.
Yeah.
And could preach Sunday morning or whatever.
Yeah.
Jeff Smith, Lewis Watson, Lewis Brim, Tammy Wise.
Oh, yeah.
My mother in ministry.
Hey, Ma.
Linda Stevens.
Oh, God, yes. Yeah.
Watching Charles Kellum preach without notes still mesmerizes me. Open the book and just go with it. And my mother used to tell me, she said, Palmer, you dying to preach without notes. I always wanted to be a preacher that could preach without a manuscript. And so I master, I'm having an arrogant moment, I master the manuscript. Mm-hmm. It took me a while to master, not preach without notes, and I'm probably getting ahead of where you want to be. Preaching funerals at the funeral home taught me how to preach without notes, because you're preaching to a crowd that's a lot of times they're mourning, they're in grief, and you cannot take your head down and read, pick it up. You got to keep your eye on them, and they got to be able to see you.
Yeah.
Man, those are the preachers that I have listened to that have blessed me. And I gotta say this because I believe in being right. All of those have had influence on me down through the years. Of course, my father in the ministry, late C.J. Clifford. Of course, Jerome Lee, who can preach. I like almost cut.
Yeah.
I'm like Cut the Barber, who can preach the kooky off of a funeral.
Oh, God.
Preach
Man.
a funeral till times get better. Just to watch Jerome master a text.
Yeah.
And put, like, where you get that from? But I learned how to pastor at Captain's Deck Restaurant with Kelvin Fitzgerald Jones.
Which, another
I have to give
preacher.
credit where credit is due, because that's who I am. I would not be the pastor I am today had it not been for K.F. Jones. The very first PA system I put in this church, Jones helped me put it in.
Yeah.
Because I was a new pastor, and I was scared to go to the church for that kind of money. He said, I'll help you. I sat at Captain's Deck Restaurant, and he would take the table mat and would write out different things for me. He would take the table mat and show me how to write out a vision so that now I can present becoming better. He would take a table mat and write out sermons. I'd say, well, how am I going? Like, I'd have a heavy funeral. Jones, what am I going to preach over this person? And he knew all the people in here. And he'd take a table mat and start writing. Or we'd be on the phone or be in the car, and we would just start talking. I couldn't write it down. Back then you had a flip phone, couldn't put it in your phone. And I'm like, what did you say? And I'd call him and like, man, what did you say? Man, I don't remember. I have to give him credit for that. Because he willingly poured into me. All of them that I've named, but he poured into me. And I'll never forget it. Never forget that. Yeah.
Do you remember your first funeral?
My first funeral was Miss Ethel Tankard. She lived down the street from my mother and father, next to Ben Stevens and Ann Ellen Stevens. She used to go to this church. She shook real bad, had a nervous condition. And she'd come to this church. She was a faithful member of this church.
Was she like an usher?
She was an usher.
She was an usher. That's her name. I could not think of her name. Yeah.
I had not been ordained or installed, but some kind of way I got to preach the funeral. I didn't commit to buy it. Albert Watson did.
Right.
Had it on a Sunday.
Wow.
And that was the first, and somewhere in my file cabinet is her obituary, because I've kept every funeral that I've ever preached anywhere in this world. I have the obituary.
Wow.
Every one. And I'll tell you something else. I'm willing to bet you I have 96% of all of my sermons, except for the ones that we ride along, and I said, Dominick, I'm going to preach that.
Yeah.
On what I got on my phone.
Yeah.
I've got floppy disks, them little small floppy disks, probably ain't got nothing to plug them into. And I got sermons on them. I got sermons in my shop. I got sermons in my closet.
Golly.
I got them everywhere. Some of them I wouldn't dare preach again. Now, weddings is something I don't like to do. Don't call me. Don't do that. Don't do that. Nah, because I'm going to charge you $1,200. And I'm going to need $1,400 up front.
Good God.
So, don't call me. But yeah, man. What else you want to talk about, Dominick? Because what do people saying? Anybody saying anything?
Oh, they're saying a lot. They're just naming them out. Dr. Natasha Bivens is on.
Natasha Bivens.
Miss Mary Morris is on.
Chester Morris. I got to add Chester Morris. Chester Morris.
Yes.
The Reverend Dr. Presiding Elder Chester Morris. I've known him all my life. He just preached for me. And you're talking about, that's another one I would sit and watch. He was going to have his choir sing Shine On Me.
Every time.
Every time.
Yep.
Every time.
Yep.
And he's the kind of preacher, kind of pastor that I can't forget either, because every year he was at New Island, I preached there. Every year. I don't care what year it was. Every year I preached New Island Church. He was there.
Wow.
That's right. Climb them steps, go downstairs, climb them steps, come up. We would always go like on a Tuesday or a Thursday. And I'd carry Thelma Colston.
Yeah.
One year I carried Dickie Upshur.
Sure did. Yeah.
Yeah.
And can't forget about my man from Horntown.
Thomas Dickerson.
He did your...
He did my
installation.
He installed me. He was a moderator at the time, and that was crazy. I'll tell you that story off camera. And he installed me. Jones was the first vice moderator.
Yeah.
He preached my installation because he preached Keep the Cup.
Wow.
He preached Keep the Cup. Yep, that's what he preached. Jones bought his own PA system in. Little PA set to sit up there and bought that in and preached that.
He did it. I remember him bringing it when he had Wilson have him come do revival. And it was from Sunday to Friday here.
Yeah.
And he set up his own system every year.
See, back in the day, man, those systems, when I got to Ebenezer, we had a Radio Shack
Yep,
system.
that's exactly what y'all had.
And I didn't have a cordless mic. And Prentice went to, his name was Dookie from Radio Shack. Mm-hmm. He just died a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
And he went and got a cordless mic. And boy, look, I was all down the aisle everywhere. That cordless mic. I remember it was fat, black, fat, cordless mic. Had 9-volt, took 9-volt
9-volt batteries. Yup.
Boy, you couldn't tell. He come and hooked it up. Boy, you couldn't tell me I wasn't something there. Oh, Lord Jesus.
I think you had it when I first came here. I came here in 2002.
The worst mic I ever had was at Sennheiser.
I still got it.
You can keep it. Because that thing would go out like the television. And she would go out and have all kind of noise coming through the system. Man, I'm telling you, it would be crazy. I mean, and it would all, I remember one year, Joe Williams was preaching for me.
I was here then.
From Salem Bible Church, Atlanta. And he got up to preach, and that mic went out. I said, oh, my God. Jesus Christ.
And this was before you renovated.
We didn't renovate. That was
he's never been here since you renovated.
Yes, he has. He preached one year. I surprised them.
Oh, that's
Flew
right.
him in,
Yeah.
And he preached here. That was the year he rode my four-wheeler and fell off the four-wheeler. You don't want me to tell that story. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
you wanted to talk about the funerals. What did you want to talk about funerals?
Well, I mean, you kind of answered it, because like my pastor, Smith, and you, Dr. Jerome Lee, I mean, I listen to you guys, and I'm like, how in the world y'all able to, and I know it's easy to do it if they are a close member of the church, but being able, I guess it's a little bit more easier when you're dealing with someone you don't know, and you just more so giving encouragement. And I mean, even from the past funeral with what Pastor Smith did with Miss Navilla James, he's able to just remember like the first time he saw her, and the fact that he used to beat the mess out of Justin in the back. Everybody come out quiet and they're like, "Why are you beating your son?" And she took him, and he was saying that she took him. She said, "I'll watch him." and he would sit by her, and he'd just be quiet. You know, he didn't do nothing. But to have that kind of a mind like that, to go all the way back 30-some years, and then to bring it up and tell a story just by memories of her, and then able to still give you a text and give you points.
Now, what I have stopped doing, because it's stressful, I stole this from my predecessor. My predecessor would preach funerals, never give you a title.
Yeah, he didn't do no title. Yeah.
I don't give titles at funerals. I take a text and I start talking. Unless God speaks to me and gives me a title, then I'll develop that. Taking point, last Saturday, I preached a funeral home of a lady. I didn't know her. And I do a lot. And I don't know why preachers say they can't preach funeral people they don't know. I do it all the time. I come in the funeral home, and this is a true story. I struggled. I said, what am I going to say? Because you always want to make certain that you say something to encourage the family. And you don't know them.
Yeah, right.
And I took Isaiah 9. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given. And the government shall be upon his shoulders, and he shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. And I started talking about how death is hard at Christmas. And then I said, let me reiterate, death is hard anytime. But death is extremely hard at Christmas. And I could preach that, and I've preached that before, right at Christmas.
Yeah.
Because people die a lot at Christmas.
They do.
When I get there, I'm going to ask him what I think about at Christmas. And I could preach it better last Saturday because I had just a year ago, almost to the date, preached my mother's funeral. Right after Christmas.
Right, yeah.
And so I now preaching this funeral right on the date, almost like, And so it really resonated with me more. This Saturday, I have to preach a funeral of a man that I've known 48 years. He's almost like a little brother, an older brother to me. His mom and dad, his mother and my mother were sisters, adopted sisters. And his siblings took me as their own. And when my mother said no, that whole house said yes. And so he died. I got to preach his funeral. And so I'm thinking about going back in time when I first realized who Rodney was.
Right.
And start talking about how he would play with me as a child, how he would spend time with me. He didn't just shug me away. I could go in his room and mess in his stuff. And him and his siblings took me, taught me things. And my parents were old. And so when I went there, I was like in heaven. That was the fun house with Aunt Murray and them. That was the fun house. And so Rodney was always there. And so Rodney spent a lot of time with me. And so I preach funerals according to what God says to me and according to what I'm led. And I'm going to tell you what Charles Kellum says all the time. Read the obituary. Read it. Go somewhere and read the person's obituary, and you will see something that triggers you.
Makes sense. That makes sense. Total sense.
And that's what I do. And don't be too long, because that family not listening to you.
Yeah.
They're mourning.
Yeah.
They're mourning. They are at a loss. My mother wanted me to preach her funeral. And I'm going to tell you, people said, how could you do it? And I've had preachers all over the country say, how you preach your mom's funeral? I said, honestly, my mother's funeral wasn't as hard to preach as some others. The hardest part for me with my mother's funeral was walking up that aisle, seeing that casket up here.
Right.
That was the hard part, watching them lower her down in the ground.
Yeah. And
memories begin to fill up. The preaching of it wasn't hard. because I started writing my mother's eulogy a week before she died.
Yeah.
And I already knew the text and the title 4 years ago. God gave it to me. Wow. It sit on my desk in my office for 4 years. I didn't know how I was going to develop it until the hospice people said, time's winding up. I said, let me get going.
Let me get going.
And so I gave it some thought, and I said, okay, I got to make this funky because she wants me to preach it, and she wants me to pull out everything. And so I done been around Sammy Cooper so long at the funeral home and how we try to be 5-star. I was going to give my mama a 5-star eulogy. If we were going to have everything just so. And so I said, Dominick, I told you, I said, I need a picture of this school, this school, this school, this school, this school. And the only school I didn't have was the old Bunting school, the one-room school. But I think we put up a one-room school or something. And what I did was I opened talking about, and I think people probably thought that conversation was what me and her had the last day. We didn't have a conversation because my mother wasn't talking.
Yeah.
That was a conversation that I wanted to have, that I would have had with her. But it was in my head what I would have wanted the conversation to be.
Yeah.
And so I bought in about where she taught and how much she loved like going to Kegatang. She loved preaching.
She loved that school.
Going way up there to Kegatang.
She loved to ride.
Wow, you driving up to Kegatang. All these schools there. She loved those people up there. Yep. And she loved Matomkin. And she loved South Accomack, Pungatig. And so I did that. I pulled that in, tied it together, and got it typed up. And I started getting it, what I call getting it in my skin. I started reading it, because I didn't want to be a slave to my iPad. And so by the time Saturday morning came, I knew that sermon here. So, looking back, I beat myself up because I'm my hardest critic. I did not close the sermon as well as I wanted to close it because I was emotional.
Right, yeah.
Willie Carter didn't want me to preach it. He begged me not to preach it. He said, let anybody preach it other than you. He said, you're too emotional. I said, I'm preaching it. I said, ain't nobody else going to preach it. I said, the only way I don't preach it is the Lord do me like he did Zechariah and take my voice. I'm going to preach that film. And so I got it in my skin. I got up that morning, fed my hogs, and I come to this church alone, like 7:30, 8 o'clock. I sat on that pew, and I cried like a baby. Wasn't a forced cry. I just said it. I talked to God, and I said, God, this is what I need you to do for me. I don't care how much crying I do before the funeral. I don't care how much crying I do after. But let me get to that pulpit and not break down. Because this eulogy has to be done perfectly. And God answered my prayer. She had said to me 20 years ago, 15 years ago, I want Palmer to preach my funeral. And she told people. She made no bones about it. And I didn't like my close, how I closed it. I wanted to push. I wanted to holler. I wanted to hoop. But I didn't have it in me. It comes some, but not the way I want it.
Right, yeah.
And then the pushing of the preachers behind me. When preachers got to understand, when preachers are pushing you, you got to stay in your freight like riding a motorcycle.
Yeah.
Don't let the motorcycle ride you, you ride it. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you can get caught up in the push that you rush through. So I didn't like the close. I like my points. I like the intro. I like the porch, as Miles Jones said. I like the porch, but I didn't like my close. I liked the story. That was a true story.
Oh, yeah.
But I couldn't get my voice. And see, what people don't understand, that's what I'm telling you. Time for me is winding up. I have trouble with my voice now because I've tried to holler, and I don't take care of my voice as I should. I go work these funerals on Saturday, I don't wrap up. I drink cold stuff.
Yeah.
I try hard to drink warm stuff, lukewarm stuff. I want to drink a lot of water. Last night, I was struggling with my voice. But that was a very interesting day that I had thought about how that day would be, how it would go, but you never prepare for that. And I gave it my best. And so now people ask, well, where did you get this taking your robe off and putting on her? Quintavion and I sat down that Saturday night, the next day after she died. And I said, Q, I want to do something to honor her. He said, I know what you can do. And you know how Q is. I thought he would come with something way out there.
Way out there.
Like, sit her out in the yard and let her ride around all the farms and let her see all the farms. Put on back a white potato truck, bread out or something. I hope he's listening. And he said, you gonna preach in a robe? I said, yeah. Because I had already preached in that white robe. That was a brand new robe. I preached in it maybe twice. I think I may have served communion with the association once.
Yeah.
So that robe had been to the dry cleaners in the bag. And about 6 months before my mom died, I said, I'm not wearing this no more until I preach her funeral. He said, drape her in your robe. Let her, and this sends chills down me right now. He said, let her sweat go to glory with her. Let your sweat from preaching her eulogy go to glory with her. Let her take a piece of you with her. Ooh.
Wow.
I said, Quintavion, that's it. So the first thing we said we were going to do, I was going to put on a shamir under that.
Right.
Because at the moment, we were going to do it all at the beginning. You know, Ebenezer got this rule since 1963 that one, you have viewing going in, and the other rule, the pastor has say over the officers. So I said, Quintavion, I'll put me a shamir on under it, so I'll drape her in that robe, and I'll just preach in my shamir. He said, no. He said, we're not going to do that. I think he got a kick out of telling me what to do.
He did.
So him and some others. So he said, what we're going to do is we're going to let everybody come in and view her. Sam and them come out and close the casket, have the service, and you have your moment alone. Open it up. Take your robe off, and you close it. I said, that's what we're going to do. And that's what we did.
Yep.
And out of the whole service, Linda singing that song and Tamika Whitfield singing her song, and me draping my mother in that robe were the highlights of that funeral. And I will never drape another person in a robe as long as I live, because there's only one Virginia Bunting. And so now, I got to go get me another white robe, because I don't have a solid white robe. Dr. Joe, I'm coming to see you.
I know he coming.
Coming to see you. But yeah, that was an interesting moment. Dominick, I've enjoyed this, man. This has been something. Have we covered everything?
I think we have.
Anybody got any questions on that?
No, they just been. Mary Moore said, what is your favorite meal?
My favorite meal?
Yeah, meals.
Meals, yeah, that's right. Plural. I love oyster fritters. I'm getting ready to do some heckfish cakes, probably Friday night, Saturday sometime. Turkey wings is probably my favorite. And I'm a fast food junkie. I'm a big kid at heart. I shouldn't at 49 years, give me 49. I love fast food. I love cold cut subs. I love everything that I shouldn't love. But I love chitlins. I love turkey wings, food in general. Seafood, you name it. I love food. I love to eat. I don't eat everybody's cooking, but I love to eat. Yeah.
Angela Trader said, you truly preached my grandmother's funeral. You lifted our heavy hearts. For that, I'm forever grateful.
Oh, bless her heart. Bless her heart. I try. I know death is a difficult time for people, and you can't take that preaching moment lightly. You gotta say something to encourage folk at that moment.
James Brick said you forgot James R. Board.
Oh, how could I forget James Israel?
Oh my God.
James Israel Boyd told me, he said Reverend Bunting, said, you need to get off this Eastern Shore because you are a good preacher. You need to go somewhere that can really do. And so many people have said that to me, and God has not told me to leave the shore. I am preparing for pastoral retirement. That's what I'm preparing for now. And boy, let me tell you, with each passing year, I'm looking forward to it more and more. Yeah.
Karen Downing said, you cover a lot of ground. To God be the glory. Thank you for sharing.
Oh, bless her heart. Bless her heart. I've enjoyed this. Look, we're coming back with Ebenezer Talks. We're probably going to try to do it twice a month, once or twice a month. And each month we're going to have a different person, and we're going to talk about different things. I want to say this in closing because we have covered a lot, and I'm hungry, and I got to go and eat.
Yeah, but I just ate some of your sausages.
Yeah, I got to go and eat. And have no fear. I got 2 500-pound hogs that are getting ready to go. I know I've been promising you, but they're getting ready to go to the butcher. They're getting ready to go. And so by the end of January, you will see plastered on social media, Bunting Farms, Little Mitts Meats will have all of your pork products already in time for Black History Month. Look at God. God is able. I want to say this. January 20th is coming. And my prayer is that God will sustain us as a people. And when I say as a people, I'm talking about not just black people. I'm talking about people. Because God is not a God of just black people. God is a God of all people. And I want us to not allow our political affiliations to cause us to lose friendships that we've had for decades. I've had some very heated debates with some of my Caucasian brothers pertaining to the president-elect. And I want to share, I'm not going to allow a political movement to destroy what I feel is a solid friendship. I don't agree with a lot of the president-elect's mantles. I think the worst thing could ever be is taking away Black history. And I am preparing right now, and you won't see as much of it in 25, but 26 you will. I am going to prepare to the best of my ability, even if I got to pull in the Karen Downings of the community, a curriculum where the black church on the Eastern Shore can use, and the DeCola Johnsons can use, so that if the schools are no longer allowed to teach black history, that the association and the churches will have a curriculum that we can take and use and teach black history and have solid classes throughout the year, not just February. So if I had an issue with him, which I have several, that's one. Leave that alone because it's a part of our history. Slavery happened. It happened. Jim Crow happened. They sicked dogs on our ancestors. They made us count jelly beans and answer dumb questions to get our right to vote. But I don't want us to allow what's going to happen on January the 20th to cause us to take our eyes off God, to cause us to miss what God is calling us to do. So here's what we need to do in reference to January 20th. Take your children on Sunday morning, turn the PS5 off, turn off the iPad, and bring them to church. And we as churches need to have programs set up to cater to their needs. I pray that in 2025, Accomack County School Board will focus on the children and the needs of the children, faculty, staff, and stop being politically motivated by the Republican Party. Because the school board should not be about political affiliation. It should be about what's best for our little children that are going to school to get an education, to be successful citizens in our society. It should be about making sure our teachers and our administrators get the resources that they need and get the pay that they need to take care of them so they can stay here and teach and educate our children. We've got to do better. The foolishness and the ignorance that I've seen with this school board situation says to me that our priorities are jacked up. And it's bigger than race. This is more than race. Race is not even in the top 3. What we're seeing happening is about control. And so I pray that in 2025, we will get it right for the sake of our children. I pray in 2025 that the black church will learn how to respect the pastor and stop getting mad when you can't have your way or when you don't understand something. That's why you ask questions. Learn how to respect the man or woman of God that God has sent. I pray that in 2025 we'll go back to church and we won't rely on social media and lay in our beds in our night clothes, but that we'll get up and we'll come into the house of the Lord and worship together. I pray in 2025 that families will get on one accord because time is filled with swift transition. I pray in 2025 that children will treat their fathers and their mothers better and not see them as a cash cow and not use them until they get where they need to be and then say to hell with them. That's what my prayer is. And I got a whole lot of other prayer, but I'm hungry. I got to let y'all go. We're on a small island. All we have is each other. And so let's stick together. My final note tonight is January the 10th. What time is that, 7?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
January the 10th, 7 p.m. We're having what I've called New Year's mega revival. My goal and my aspiration is that this will become an annual event at Ebenezer Church. We have 3 preachers that are coming to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ. Each one of them are going to get 15 to 20 minutes, and they're going to preach a word that will encourage us for the new year. Pastor Quintavion Washington will come and preach. Dr. Tremaine Johnson from Newport News will come and preach. Pastor Quintavion is from Lonely, Virginia. And then Pastor Hugo Morrison from Portsmouth, I believe, Chesapeake, one of those 757 cities. He's going to come and preach. 3 powerful preachers of the gospel. Sister Mary Morris is going to be one of our psalmists for the evening. Our praise team will render music. I want you to do me a favor. If this podcast has blessed you tonight, I want you to make your way to Ebenezer next Friday so you can be in the number to witness and to hear the move of God. That's my request. That's all I'm asking you to do. If we've blessed you tonight, come make your way. They're talking about weather. I'm claiming clear weather. If it's cold, we'll work through that. But I'm claiming clear weather. I'm claiming the roads will be clear. And we're going to have service here, 7 o'clock. And we're going to have a wonderful time. Our media ministry is revamping some things. And so we're going to be a blessing to you. And we want you to bless us and bless the Lord with your presence. I'm Palmer Bunting. I pastor Ebenezer Baptist Church and St. Mary's Baptist Church. I own Bunting Produce Farms, Little Mitts Meats, and Divine Lawn Care. And here's my son. And we're signing off tonight. We'll be back again at the end of this month with a very special guest. God bless you. God keep you. And may his face shine upon you and be merciful unto you. Dominick, you want to give a last word?
Well,
Brother Deacon?
Yeah, Brother Deacon. I'm just going to go off kind of what both Ebenezer and my church, New Mount Calvary, theme is I pray that we all become better in whatever area that we need improvement on. And our church theme is seeking God from Acts, I think it's Acts 17:27. So while you're doing better, continue in that process of becoming better, continue to seek God. And I pray that we all of you will have a very safe 2025.
Yeah.
In spite of what's going to happen on MLK Day in a couple of weeks, we know that God is supreme, that he is our Alpha and he's our Omega. So we always keep that in our hearts and know that God will not put more on us that we can bear. Yeah. And that's all I have.
And if you feel bad, like I said, you can always make yourself feel better by calling me 710-7921. Meet me, and I'll meet you at the John Deere store, and just buy me a new tractor. You'll feel better. You'll feel better. 7 Series 240 or 85 horsepower with a front end loader. I'll take either one. Just buy one of them. I'll get the other one. That's all you got to do. Good night. Peace.
Peace.
Now that